All right, what's up, guys? So, Hotfix 69.1 dropped, and they changed a few things about what they did. I think primarily the big thing here are the nerfs, and there is something else that I want to talk about. Um, I guess I guess I'll talk about it first. Here, let me show you guys this really quick. So, this right here, SCF posted these in general about an hour ago, a little less than an hour ago, actually. He said, well, the bottom one is from yesterday, but he said, it's so sad to see players not happy. I also don't get any pleasure from acquiring gear. This will change tomorrow, and I can't pursue what I want while ignoring our players' grief. So, um, obviously I'm not gonna like jump the gun and say, we won. However, I think this is definitely it looks like he realizes what he's done and his vision for the game may not have been what is best or what the players want, right? Like, I'm just pull it back up. Because one, he says, I can't pursue what I want while ignoring our players' grief, which, just means that like he can't do what he wants for the game if all of the players are going to be unhappy for it, or a significant amount of the players are going to be happy for it. I mean, one, completely ignoring whether or not he's like okay with it for it, like I guess from like emotional standpoint, it just won't really work. Like, if your vision for the game is taking the game is like removing the game's player base, then obviously you just can't let that go, right? And I think there's been a lot of outrage about these very recent patches. A lot of people have made videos. A lot of people haven't played the game, haven't been streaming the game, anything like that. In Discord and stuff, there's been a lot of messages being spammed pretty much 24/7 over the past week, I'd say, maybe a little longer. But yeah. So for the most part, I definitely think people made their voice heard about what they didn't like, and also the second message here. I also don't get any pleasure from acquiring gear. I mean, this makes sense, right? I think this is pretty self-explanatory. If you play the game and then if you find something that's quote unquote good, it's not even that much better than what you can get from your squire. So why do you really care about getting it? And I think this is one of the biggest issues I've had for a long time. Is like, if they just played their game, they would see that a lot of these changes are not good. And this is kind of telling me that maybe they finally did. That he changed the game for what he wanted to, played it, and realized, wait, this isn't actually good, or this isn't actually fun. So this should be a patch tomorrow. This video will go up probably around 1:30, 2 p.m., maybe a little earlier on what's today? On Tuesday, the 29th. So the patch should be tomorrow on Wednesday. I will be making another video on that. Hopefully the patch is good. But yeah, I'll be making another video on that. Now, just to get into the patch notes that we got. What was this? I think it was, when was this? It was yesterday. Okay, yeah, yesterday. So just go over these. Primarily, like I said, it's not like super long as you see here, but there were a couple big changes. They fixed Demon's Glee. They give it magic weapon damage now. So this scales with additional magic damage, true magic damage, magical power, all that stuff. However, the really big ones. Barbarian's Rage physical damage reduction penalty changed from 15% to 25%, which is really big. This is 15% higher than what it originally was before they first buffed it. Or I guess technically nerfed it, but this is a lot. The offensive stats and defensive stats you gained with that 15 strength and 15 vig were insane, usually to the point that they were offsetting the PDR cost. So it kind of made it so it's like, yeah, you're losing 15% PDR, but overall the health you're gaining and the damage you're gaining make it way too valuable. It's not even close to being an even trade. It's pretty much just always a positive. And this kind of, honestly, I think this, I want to say this is maybe a bit too high. However, I don't mind it. I do think Rage should be one of those skills that if you use it poorly, you should be punished for it. And I think minus 25% PDR is definitely at the range that it is possible to do that. Two-hander armor penetration bonus changed from 15% to 5%. I said this is going to happen. 15% pen was way too much. I think maybe if you made the pin only apply to weapons that don't have pin, you could put this around 10%. But even then, one of the reasons that this wouldn't really work that well, because one of the things of weapons that have pin is, generally speaking, their base damage isn't as high for certain things. Think like Warmaul. Warmaul's base damage isn't as high as something like a Bardiche has been. Maybe now it will be, but In the past, it hasn't been, because it also has the armor pen to make up for it. So if you give a weapon, like, if you have two weapons that both have 10% armor pen and 170 base damage and 160, the one you're going to use is usually pretty obvious. Obviously, there are other factors that go into it, such as like a moveset and everything, but generally speaking, you don't want to just give that pen to weapons that don't have it, and they'll just make them better than the ones that do. But yeah, and then on top of this, you could add that pin onto weapons that already had it, and it made them ridiculous. Like Wormall could just have 35% pin, which was absolutely insane. Then a weird change. PDR MDR maximum cap changed from 75% to 65%. I'm really not sure why they did this. If I'm being honest, there are two things this really affects, and that is taunt, and that is divine protection. Not a lot else gets affected by this change, because after the nerfs to armor rating, clerics weren't hitting max PDR, and maybe if you were in full Ruby Silver with armor rating rolls, maybe. I'm not even sure if that would get you there, honestly. Just based on what I've looked at with my gear. Like, with a full kit on with mostly plate and defense mastery, I'm only like 50% without my shield, and a shield does not get you 15% PDR. So that is quite an interesting change, I will say. Barbarians definitely aren't getting that high. So, yeah, like, no one was getting 75%. I can almost guarantee that. Outside of using Divine Protection or Taunt, nobody was getting that high. So, this is a weird change overall. Really, I don't get it. But maybe they did this with intentions of doing something in the future that would change something about PDR, NDR. Like I said, odd change. I don't understand it. Like, it doesn't do anything bad, because like I said, no one was getting that high anyways, which is why it doesn't make sense to me. It's like, on one hand, it's like, okay, no one was getting to 75% PDR, or really even 65% PDR, so the change doesn't matter because it doesn't affect anyone. On the other hand, no one was getting there, so why'd you change it, right? It's like, in theory, if the PDR cap, or, not the PDR cap, if, like, let's say, like, the Fizz Power cap was, like, changed from like 100% to like 200%. It's not even 100%. I don't even know why I said that. Like, there's just, or let's say if they change the move speed cap from 330 to 700, but the highest move speed anyone could get in game was like 320. It's like, it doesn't do anything because no one can get higher than that, right? But anyways, moving on from that, that's just kind of weird to me. This is the big one. Removed infrequently used random modifiers. So, this is a really big change, because their idea of infrequently used is not exactly accurate. Primarily speaking, they removed additional memory capacity, the flat one, not the percent, as a stat. And if you guys don't know, if you're not super familiar, that is one of Bard's most important stats in the game. That is literally, like, that is their best non-offensive stat, because they don't use knowledge because they don't need it. They just build add mem cap to get all of the spell song slots for their songs. And the reason this is so good is because you could get things like double mem cap on instruments like your lute, your lyre, your drum, all of that, where you can't get knowledge on it, or knowledge. Actually, can you get knowledge? I'm not sure. Maybe it's less, or I know you can't get much knowledge because you can only roll 2. And 2 knowledge is 2 memory capacity. You could roll up to 3 added mem cap, which obviously would be 3 memory capacity. Then you can get 10%. Overall, this is just a really weird change to me. Like I said, this is not at all an infrequently used modifier. This has been used pretty much since Bard came out. And like, yeah, maybe not everyone's using it. However, there are still some roles that are in the game that are not ideal. For example, weapons, like melee weapons can roll magical healing. Why? And you could say like, oh, well, you can't remove it from the whole thing because then books want to roll magical healing. Like, okay, we'll make it like a magical weapon only roll. Like the same way like magical damage or magical pen is, make it so magical healing only works on magical weapons. And that would just fix that. But to leave something like magical healing rolling on weapons while you get rid of additional memory capacity is really weird to me. Another stat that they removed, that it's actually funny, I kind of called this one. Whenever I saw the patch, I was like, yo, I bet they did this. They removed buff duration. Buff and debuff duration were removed. And if you are a longtime watcher of me, you're gonna realize this is kind of insane because I'd say for about 2 wipes now, ever since I started it, buff duration has become an incredibly popular stat for fighters, clerics, demon form warlocks. All three of those have loved buff duration. Even bards, to an extent, really, really like buff duration because a lot of people all of a sudden realized, wait, buff duration makes some of my really good skills even better. When I first showed it with fighter, taunt, second wind, sprint, clerics have divine protection, smite, demon warlocks have their exploitation strike. All of those scale incredibly well with buff duration and makes them very, very strong. So recently, buff duration has been really, really good. Crystal Sword fighters have been using it with their second wind. They've been building a ton of buff duration because they've been building a ton of will. And it's making their second wind last really, really long. Makes their sprint last really, really long. But this is another one of those roles that they removed. When I read this, my first thought was, oh, they're going to get rid of, like, interaction speed. Like, regular interaction speed, magical interaction speed. It's something they kept, which is crazy to me, is projectile reduction. I mean, I get it. Maybe they had to keep it because it rolls on armor and stuff, and you couldn't have it on armor without, like, it passively rolling on gear. I don't think that's the case. It definitely should have been doable, right? Like, you should easily be able to make it, oh, it's on, like, a base stat, but you can't roll it. So I don't know what's up with that. But yeah, they kept projectile reduction as a stat, but they removed buff duration and additional memory capacity, which is insane. Then moving on, changed all equipment to have slight differences depending on rarity. I don't. They said they did this, but I logged in the game and everything looked the same to me. All the gear and everything looked the same. So I mean, I guess they. Okay, sorry. Let me change this. All the stats were the same, but the armor rating was and magic resistance was different. Like for like base stats on armor, that's what is different. They didn't actually change the stats, which is a weird way to phrase this. Because reading this initially, I would assume, oh, they changed stats on gear. Not what the case was. Then they slightly reduced the damage of all weapons. Just lower or trying to increase time to kill. Realizing that once everybody has max base damage weapons in Squire kit, the game's pretty fast. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Bardiche is no longer an axe weapon. I complained about this last time with the axe specialization buff and Bardiche. Was it Bardiche buff? I don't remember. But axe specialization buff and the two-hander buff with Bardiche almost always being their best weapon. This kind of nerfs that. Overall, it's a pretty big nerf. They lose 5 weapon damage, which is a lot. Combined with, they reduce the damage of all weapons. So overall, Bardiche probably lost like 6 or 7 weapon damage, which is a ton of actual damage every hit. Crazy amount. But yeah, good change. I think Barbarian was definitely the best class in the game. Absolutely need to be toned down a bit. It hasn't been very good for a while, but it went from not being not very good or like decent to Thanos. Crossbow's armor penetration changed from 30% to 20%. I think this needed to happen a long time ago. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think this ever needed a buff. Crossbows were slapping, bro. And you give them to bards, like bards and fighters, and they were just like chunking each other for so much. Like a fighter could shoot another fighter, have almost no damage built, and you'd still do like 40% of their health bar if you hit them with like a nasty headshot from like a pretty close range because of the armor pen. It was crazy. The equipping time increased from 2 seconds to 3 seconds. This is, and the windless armor pen changed from 40% to 30%, and equipping time changed from 3 seconds to 5 seconds. This is specifically to counteract the rangers that are bringing in like 5 crossbows in their inventory. Just instead of reloading, you just hot swap and shoot people. Overall, if you have crossbow mastery, reloading the windless is faster now, but you also have to stop to do that. You can't keep moving around. And this makes it so fighters can't do the same thing with windless as the normal crossbows. Well, obviously not as much, but yeah, good nerf. I mean, I'm just gonna be completely honest with you. I literally don't care about windless nerf. The only thing I want on Ranger only thing on Ranger I want to be nerfed is traps. I think bear traps are the worst thing in the game, and they need to be adjusted some way. They feel like shit to play against though. I mean, I've literally pulled up Propose's stream, and I've watched him play Terraria as he's sitting there fishing with like 30 traps on the ground, tabbed out of his game with holding a windless, just waiting. It's like, bro, come on, man. And there are a lot of people that do that. I've run into so many people doing stuff like that. But yeah, traps definitely need to be fixed. I don't really care that much about anything else with Ranger. And then they were going to change longbow armor pen, but they didn't. I understand why this change didn't go through, specifically because if you did this, then it would pretty much just be worse recurve bow. pretty significantly. Then one last thing to read the developer comments. This hotfix implements several changes that improves loot progression while still maintaining the progress we've made in lowering the PvP gear gap and the reduction in matchmaking pools for better quality matches. We've updated the damage and armor attributes so there's a concrete improvement as you move up the rarity grades. We have also updated the random modifier system with the removal of most unpopular rolls, greatly improving the link between the number of rolls and the quality of the item. Finally, we have made several balance changes to bring the Barbarian and long-range weapons down a notch. We will continue to monitor these changes to ensure that PvP feels fair across a wide range of gear score while making loot feel rewarding. We apologize for the huge shock last week, but it was a necessary step for us to really whittle down the long-standing issues we faced regarding PvP gear gap and matchmaking. We believe these changes now build a groundwork for a healthier future that can support both established and new players. Thank you for understanding to you in the dungeon. Yeah, and obviously we know that's complete bullshit because you guys are changing it back. But anyways, not to BBM. Also, one thing I did forget to say, where they said they changed all equipment to have slightly different differences depending on rarity. Jewelry. Jewelry was adjusted. Obviously, I'm not in game to show you guys this, but they kind of reverted jewelry to an extent, not including Grim Smiles. But Necklace of Peace is back to the former 5 HP at blue, 7 HP at blue, 9 HP at purple, 11 HP at legendary. Rings now roll the previous stats. I believe blue rings roll 1 to 2 of a stat. I'm not sure about the rest, but they have ranges now. And overall, I'm fine with it. I will say, though, Necklace of Peace still should be nerfed. Necklace of Peace is way too good. They need to bring it down by like 2 HP. It should be 3 at green, 5 at blue, 7 at purple, 9 at what's it called? 9 at legendary. Because Necklace of Peace is just OP. Necklace of Peace existing makes it so bearer pendant just is always useless. Always. Never fails. It's just complete horse ass. Because it's just less HP. And the Vig doesn't mean anything. Like, oh, cool, I get resting recovery bonus. Yeah, fuck you, bro. That shit's irrelevant. And then Grim Smiles weren't changed. Grim Smiles are still the same, which I don't mind. I think Grim Smiles have been the best ring in the game for way too long. And it's definitely fine to bring them a bit in line with others. They're still incredibly good, but they're not the de facto best now. And with that being said, that's probably going to wrap it up for this video. I will make another run tomorrow or whenever this patch comes out because I'm ready to see what the changes are. But I just want to say, hopefully this time tomorrow or the day after, I'm playing Dark and Darker again, and I'm excited to go in and loot some items out of the dungeon. I think this whole thing has been... It's just been unnecessary. I saw, I think Repose put this best. It's like they're wasting their time doing this, and then they're going to have to waste another 2-3 weeks changing all of this back that they could spend actually making things better because they wanted to do this, and everybody knows it won't work. And at the end of the day, it's, you know, I mean, I'm ready for it to go back so I can play the game again, but it's sad that we had to go through this, I think. It was just completely unnecessary, and I'm pretty sure, like, yeah, are there going to be people out there that enjoyed the game during this time? Yeah, absolutely. Are the majority going to have enjoyed the game? No. And I do think the people that did enjoy it, to an extent, they would probably realize in a couple weeks, like, wait, this isn't fun. Because you realize you're going in, you're doing the same thing over and over and over with literally no game. It's just like there's no progression whatsoever, and you're just playing it like a team deathmatch game or a battle royale, right? And like battle royales are fun because you know you can win, right? Like you can see the chicken dinner at the end. This game doesn't have that. You're just like, oh, cool, I extract now with items that aren't that good, so I don't really care about them. You don't have that same sense of there's no like end goal for this game that makes it, that gives you that like dopamine rush. There's no like, oh, I got good gear, oh, I won something. It's just, oh, cool, I killed people, now I leave and I do it again. For what? But hopefully that all changes tomorrow. And with that being said, thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you guys later. Peace.